Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Saima, and today we have an extraordinary guest. Eric is a lifestyle engineer and hypnotherapist based in Grand Rapids, MI. With his international certifications, Eric helps clients achieve greater outcomes in their lives through various specializations, including weight loss, past life regression, and pain management. He is also an Akashic record channel, providing deep insights into our current lives and past experiences. So, let's dive into the fascinating world of virtual gastric band and Akashic records with Eric. So, Eric, how does it compare to traditional weight loss methods?
It's a hypnotherapy-based process that resets the relationship that a person has with eating and with food. It convinces the subconscious mind that a band has been put around the top part of their stomach, creating a small pouch so that they'll feel fuller faster. That's kind of the short answer on that. But more than anything, it reprograms all the wrong programming that we receive over our lifetime about have a clean plate, be a big boy, or, oh, you fell off your roller skates, here, a little ice cream will make it all better. We're trained to override the programming that was divinely installed in us when we were born. You know, a baby, when it's hungry, cries, it's fed a breast or a bottle, and when it's comfortable, it stops. We're taught to override that wisdom, and the virtual gastric band resets that back to factory settings, if you will, so that we honor what the wisdom of our body is. It's a remarkable process.
That's really intriguing, Eric. Can you share a success story from one of your clients?
Sure, the very first hypnosis client that I ever had, and so this would have been nearly 13 years ago. Monty was his name, and he dropped 75 pounds. But in his testimonial is on my website at ericwebster.com. Basically, the process really changed almost everything in his life in a wonderful way. Monty had dropped out of college. He got married. He had a family. He never finished his degree, and he always felt intellectually inferior absent that degree. Well, he was finishing his degree at about the same time. And between the work that we did together and him obtaining his college degree, all of a sudden he didn't feel like he was less than or not as smart as. But it's funny, his wife, Paula, also on my website, came to do the virtual gastric band. She only probably lost 35 pounds. It's all she really needed to lose. But it was based on the impact that it had on Monty and his life. And I think that her attitude was sort of okay, if this process did that much for Monty, I want some of that for me. And as I say, they've been very generous with me in terms of allowing me to use their photos and their story on my website, because there's no finer example of a great outcome for a man and for a woman. So.
That's noteworthy. So, how did you become interested in the Akashic records?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How did you become interested in the Akashic records?
Oh, the Akashic records.
hmm
I had been attuned as a Reiki master, which is energy healing work. And then the next idea that presented itself was Akashic records. And I was at a week-long conference that used to happen in Michigan in the U.S., and one of the week-long classes I could take was about reading in the Akashic record. And for those who may not know, because it's not real well known, the Akashic record is the complete and total history of your soul. Every lifetime, everything you've ever been, done, said, or thought, or will be, do, say, or think, but it does not override free will. We always have the right to turn the wheel and go in a different direction. But the future stuff is largely, if you continue in the direction that you're currently heading, this is what you're likely to encounter, and this is what where your ultimate destination will be. Um, I do also with hypnosis past life regression, which we go visiting in past lives. And sometimes that involves going to the master library where the Akashic record is held. And we work with the record keepers who bring out the volumes and open it to the pages where there's information that would be helpful to the client's current situation.
What was your first experiences like? How were you to access them? How was your first experience about that?
Oh, how do I access the Akashic record? There's a prayer that I read 3 times once I have the client's permission. I don't ever go into a person's record without the express permission because that would be spiritual trespassing. And I believe that the universe can punish that pretty severely. But yep, there's a prayer that I read and I get a channeling of information that comes out of the record. And it's an interesting conversational kind of thing. So if the client has questions, they have an opportunity to ask them, and we take whatever information comes. I don't do illness or disease. That is one of my rules that I established because I just don't want to go there. But because I'm a Reiki master, I do get energetic hits, and sometimes that can steer us around a situation that could be coming, that could involve some sort of disease. So I never know who or what's going to show up in a reading. Sometimes there are versions of the client from another lifetime. Other times there are ancestors or spirits or guides. So because everything is about me, that keeps me really entertained. But it also provides just a wealth of information for the clients. And I do those readings in person in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I also work with people all over the world on Zoom. So it's a real easy, we're face to face. It works out really well. I record those sessions and then I share the recordings with the client via Dropbox so they can go back and replay it should they want to.
It's really amazing that how the Akashic records can provide with such deep insights. Can you describe a particularly impactful reading you have done?
There was one, it was pre-COVID, and it was a telephone reading, which I still do, but not very often. Most people are doing Zoom if they're out of town. And this was with a young woman in Denver, Colorado. It was in December. It was dark outside. I was in my office, and I was the only person in the building. And so I'm on the phone with my client and in the record. And I don't normally see spirit, but a woman in spirit walked into my office, and I put my client on hold and asked the woman, "Oh, can I help you?" And she informed me that she was my client from the lifetime that we were going to be talking about, and that if everybody agreed, she would love to join the conversation. So I got back on the phone with my client and I said, okay, now for something completely different, because this had never happened before. And I explained that a version of her from another lifetime was sitting across my desk from me and would like to join the conversation. And it turns out that the question that my client had primarily revolved around a romantic relationship that she was in. And the woman in spirit informed us that it was in her lifetime that she and the soul of the gentleman my client was currently involved in first became romantically intertwined. And they were deeply, madly, passionately in love. And then unexpectedly, the woman died, just like right out of the blue. And in that moment, her boyfriend, knowingly or not knowingly, made a vow that he never wanted to hurt that badly again. which essentially put his heart in a box. And as I'm explaining this to my client on the phone, she just starts crying because it described exactly the kind of behavior that her boyfriend was exhibiting. He kept everybody at arm's length. He didn't let anybody in close enough that if they left, it would hurt as bad as it had hurt when his lover from another lifetime had died. And so I think the cool outcome of that, beyond how amazing it was to have her from another lifetime join the conversation, but in real life, she and her boyfriend sat down and just had the most wonderful conversation about the awarenesses and the information that she had received. They realized jointly that that was the reason that they had come together this lifetime, was for her to help him take his heart out of the box and be willing and able to love again. And so they decided that they were much better off as friends than lovers, so they went their separate ways. And it wasn't terribly long that he met, fell in love with, and I believe married another woman. And I know that that my client I've seen on Facebook has a wedding coming up this year. So, you just don't know what might be holding you back or standing in the way of your life that you desire, that might be from another time and another place. I've had multiple clients who have either been priests or nuns or bishops or whatever in the Catholic Church in other times and places. And in some of those cases, we found out that despite the fact that the vows of poverty and chastity that they took when they became a nun or a priest, despite the fact that those should have been vacated at their passing in that lifetime, that they were still hanging around and limiting their experience of life this time. And I'm confident your listeners can do the math on how much less happy life would be if you were living with a vow of poverty or a vow of chastity that you hadn't voluntarily signed up for in this lifetime. So we can, once that information is out, then we can vacate those vows and theoretically remove any blockages that were in place because of them. Fascinating work. I love it. Absolutely love it.
That's noteworthy. Can you explain the connection between past life regression and Akashic records?
Oh, sure. In a past life regression, we actually go visiting the lifetimes, and we go as visitors because I don't ever want to walk a client into a horrific trauma of some kind that might be going on while we're visiting. But the Akashic record contains all of the information of all of those lifetimes. So it's sort of like the history book of the soul, where with a past life regression, we actually go visiting. And I had one guy, again, a few years ago, and when we went back into other lifetimes, he found himself as a submarine commander in the German Navy during the war. And there were depth charges going off, and they were very much under fire and wasn't looking good. And then he was pulled out of there and was overlooking the home that he occupied back in Germany with his wife and two children. And it was Christmas Eve, and the Navy was knocking at the door to inform his wife that he had been lost in battle. And so he witnessed that. And then when we went back to the submarine, it was fully swamped. And he saw the body that he occupied in that lifetime floating in the water. So he had died in battle, died in combat. But they told him that the souls of his current wife and two kids were the same souls as his wife and two kids in Germany in that prior lifetime. And so that was interesting because he and I kicked that around a bit. And And my theory was that it was quite possible that he was not supposed to die in battle the way he did. And so the universe gave him a do-over with his wife and 2 kids because that had been cut so horribly short with the war.
Can you share some common misconceptions about hypnosis and the virtual gastric band?
Sure, there are a lot of misconceptions. There a big one in some circles is that anything like that is the work of the devil, and that's just utter nonsense. Um, and with the Akashic record, my access to the record is with a prayer, so it's pretty counterintuitive that it would be the work of the devil if it's a prayer to God that gives me the access. I think the biggest thing is that some people, and I'm finding fewer and fewer that have horrible misconceptions, um, just think it's all nonsense and it couldn't possibly work until I hypnotize them. I had one gentleman, again, a while ago, an engineer type or lawyer type mind, a very, very developed mind, and um, not easily fooled or but and he had no belief that it was going to work, and he came to me for past life regression. And after our time together, he left here as a true believer that hypnosis works, it's powerful, and it's good. One of the things that I explain to my clients is that the worst thing that can happen with hypnosis is nothing. Um, and it doesn't matter whether they believe in hypnosis or not, it can still work because the subconscious mind is always listening. But the subconscious mind also is the gatekeeper. For example, my office is directly across the street from a bank. So I use this as an example. I say, if I was a crook, which I'm not, and I programmed while I had you hypnotized that you were going to go across the street to the bank, empty out all your bank accounts, bring me the cash, and have no knowledge of it, the subconscious mind would not allow that type of a suggestion to be implanted in the brain because it wouldn't be in the person's best interest. So the subconscious would act a bit like a hockey goalie, and it would just bat that idea away, and that wouldn't be an outcome that they would experience. But anything behaviorally, I believe, can be impacted positively. I don't personally work with people who are looking to break a serious drug problem or serious alcoholism, because I do believe that those require additional levels of training that I don't have. But I can tell you that I've helped a fair number of people modify their relationship with alcohol so that it was more manageable. I've had a couple of compulsive gamblers that I've helped not go to the casino. Really, it's kind of mind blowing the different situations that people come for with the hope of overcoming. Um, I'm starting a young woman this afternoon in about an hour on a virtual gastric band. And most people I have found have tried every diet known to man, and they don't work. Diets are about deprivation, and you just can't live like that on a sustainable basis. So I wish that bariatric surgeons would add a process like mine to their prep for people that are going to have surgery, because so many people that have bariatric surgery lose a whole bunch of weight, but then down the road they put it back on. I believe that that's because the mental part of it hasn't been addressed with the surgery. It isn't what we eat that makes us fat. It's what's eating us. And It's, the more, and I'm a big guy. I've been a big guy my whole life. So it's real interesting to me to listen to the same story with minor variations from almost every client that comes in one way or another. So,
It's gonna surely be beneficial for all our listeners. Thank you, Eric, for sharing your incredible knowledge and experiences with us today. Listeners, if you're ready to explore the transformative power of the virtual gastric band and the Akashic records, start by connecting with experts like Eric. And remember, with inner peace and better health, you can begin with understanding and embracing your deeper selves. Stay mindful and keep journeying towards a healthier, more fulfilling